Welcome to another episode of the Prout Podcast. And this is a podcast series which looks at issues in the news and in society from the perspective of the progressive utilization theory, which is also known as Prout. And I'm your host, Dada Veda Pragyananda, but you can use my short form there, Dada Veda, which is up on the screen. And today we're going to do a follow up to a previous episode. And in that episode, I spoke of the danger of public activities coming under the control of powerful individuals. And I singled out Elon Musk, but he's only an example. But the main issue, which we spoke about in that podcast, was that there are certain areas of public concern which are now fully controlled by private entities, and these are such as transportation, communication, basic mineral extraction, key industries, different matters which are really of the concern of the whole society, and the decisions can influence our present and even the future of the planet. And these activities I mentioned should be come under public ownership and management and guidance. And in this regard, I also mentioned that there are time honored institutions such as education, even the Postal Service, which have come under the attack of privatizers. And one of our listeners and viewers, responded to this with a very interesting point. He said basically that public education is a disaster. Really, what he said, it creates a generation of media saturated, uncreative worker slaves. So, and that's why he's a proponent of a form of a private education, which is spiritually based. We'll get back to that. So, in any case, I want to first tackle his contention, and maybe people can update me because I graduated college in 1968. I attended primary school was in the 50s, and education had its defects, which I will also speak about, but it somehow produced people who are capable. And even today, I think that our education system is creating doctors, lawyers, educators, people of merit in all spheres of the society. So it's not a complete disaster. But in any case, we should tackle his contention. He says that education today is bad, and one of the reasons and why he's in a different kind of approach is because it doesn't have spiritual values, and spiritual values are lacking. So I agree with him, and I'm a yogi, so I'm a spiritual person, and even I support a kind of education which is on the minority, on the fringe, which has a strong spiritual component. But the point is that there are 2 points here. One is that if we allowed a complete privatization of the education system where everybody would get a voucher and they could attend whatever school they would like, what would happen would be there would be a school for blacks, a school for whites, a school for the rich, a school for the poor, a school for this religious minority, a school for that religious minority. And there would be a fragmentation of society and a chaos. Some schools would teach evolution or basically a scientific process of looking at the geologic record and different kind of things like that. Other schools would be teaching about there's Noah's Ark and the animals were placed there. So this could be a disaster. And another point is about education, public education. It has created one society out of many people. Many people have come. I sit in the U.S., which is a basically multicultural, multinational place. People have come in from all these different places for a few hundred years, but they would come in and somehow they would learn a certain basic thing and they'd become out as citizens who could build a democracy. The democracy, of course, is not perfect, and we'll talk about that in the future. But in any case, education, public education has been a force for the continuation of democracy. And I think that the people who, not all the people who want to privatize it are of the same good-hearted interest as my friend who proposed why he needs vouchers for his form of education. But some of those privatizers are profiteers. They want to make money from that. And others are also proponents of extreme views, which might be harmful for the society. So this is something. Now, my friend also mentioned that there are problems in the public system because there are ideologies of whether they be left or right, and they're threatening to bring erroneous or detrimental concepts into education. I agree that the education should not be in the hands of politicians, but it should be in the hands of educators. And those educators can forge a standard for public education, which we could reach. So I think that we have to strengthen it. You know, one thing about education, like I said, I mentioned it, I went to school a long time ago, but when I went to school, I never saw a teacher, an elementary school teacher, would have to go out in front of Walmart and raise money selling cookies or something to buy school supplies. You know, this is a tragedy. So education, public education should be strengthened, but it should be improved. Now, the point which my friend made about spiritual values in education, this is a contentious or a problematic point because spirituality is often equated with religion. So when I went to school in the 1950s, everybody had to recite the Lord's Prayer. Now, the Lord's Prayer was good for a lot of people, maybe the majority, but there's certainly minority people who didn't feel comfortable reciting the Lord's Prayer. And if we did that today, I think there'd be even more discomfort. So we can't have that. So basically, regarding spirituality, when society will accept certain values as universal and that must be included, then they will be included and nobody will suffer from that. But until that day comes, it's very dangerous to impose any particular religion or any particular spiritual path, you know, in the public sphere of education. So I think that we have to strengthen public education, but also improve it and make it better so that we can bring about a better society. So these are my ideas and personal opinion. It's based on a study, of course, of the progressive utilization theory, which was developed by Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar in the 1950s, and he wrote extensively about society. And basically, Prout, or progressive utilization theory, is aimed at building a society which will take us beyond capitalism, which created many defects, but we want to go beyond those defects and build a better society. So if you're interested in that, please visit proutalliance.org or prout.info and learn more about it. So that's all for today. And I hope that also, one more point before I leave you, is that wherever you are, please subscribe. If you like what you're listening or hearing, subscribe to it so you get the future episodes. If you have a chance to give it a positive rating or a thumbs up, please do that. That will improve our algorithm and more people will get to listen to or to see our content. So that's all for today. And I wish you well. I wish you great health. And I hope to be in touch with you again in the future. So thank you all.